probably one of the most shocking stories I've seen in a long time. I couldn't believe it when I saw this video. Trudeau announces national plan to freeze importing, buying, or selling handguns. Now, what really freaked me out about this is the way that he actually reads it. Let me see if I'm going to play this video for you guys. Listen to this.
We're introducing legislation to implement a
we turn that up?
national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
I think that's enough. I don't want to listen anymore to that man.
Yeah, really.
But the whispery, feathery way he's talking, we're capping handgun market. He sounds like a Bond villain. This is really creepy stuff. Seeing all these people post online about banning guns outright, then they come out and they say, nobody's trying to ban your guns. They're literally trying to ban your guns. And I think the important context here is that I think we've seen from history what happens every single time guns get banned.
Well, I don't understand, yes, what one has to do with the other. I'm certainly interested in a rational discussion about what needs to be done after these tragedies. I think a lot of people are. But to jump ahead to something like, what does this have to do with Canada and banning guns? What does the tragedy in Texas have to do with that?
Well, I don't think it does. I think we're just seeing the scale at which this ideology wants to go. So in the United States, they know they can't come out and say ban all the guns because nobody wants that. In the United States, they know they can't say that. In Canada, they can just do it. I mean,
do they want it in Canada? Is it different there?
I can't speak for Canadians.
He got a lot of applause in the room.
He introduced the bill, so it was a bill. So we'll see what happens with the lawmakers. But yeah, I mean, it's just bizarre. I mean, but it's still nothing new under the sun. I mean, we've seen this from other regimes, and it is fascism when the government wants to take control of the firearms and take them away from the people. And what I find hypocritical is people who were cheering, the Ukrainians all arming themselves and just saying this is a great thing, good for them for arming themselves. The hypocrisy.
They're posting videos of child soldiers in Ukraine praising them. And I'm just like, man, this got dark real quick.
Wow.
I mean, isn't Ukraine the exact reason why some people here say we should not be disarmed? The very thing that's happening to the Ukrainians, it could be argued, which is they taught right before the invasion of Russia, they were actually training the local citizens in how to use their weapons in combat that they already had. Mm-hmm. It almost makes the case for the opposite of what they're arguing now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and not just Ukraine, the rioting that happened for months on end in this country that was praised by the left wing. They sit there and tell us that rioting is an acceptable response when politics doesn't go their way, basically. And then they turn around and tell you a couple weeks to months later, oh, you have no reason to own a firearm.
There was during the George Floyd riots, there was a guy in New York who called 911 because people were breaking into his apartment building and fighting. And he said, I need help. The dispatcher said, sir,
let me send you a therapist.
They said, the city is under attack. What would you have us do?
Yeah.
Good luck. I mean, these people vote for this stuff. Or they ignore it and they let it happen. And then when danger comes a knocking, you ain't got no one to count on. So we saw, here's the fascinating thing about all of the gun control stuff, is that there are people currently arguing for gun control when we just saw the police in the Uvalde incident not go in, but use their authority to stop the parents from going in who were armed.
Disgusting.
Which is what gun control is, by the way, allowing the criminals to have guns, but preventing people who want to protect themselves and their families from having guns. Yeah. And so another take I saw from a number of lefties was this proves that the AR-15 is too dangerous because he had one and so the police were too afraid to stop him. Firstly, many of those officers had ARs. But secondly, if the AR-15 is too dangerous and terrifying for a police officer to go up against, who's going to confiscate them? How are you going to ban them?
That's a great question.
Well, that's the problem, again, with the Canadian proposal. You're taking care of something that's not happened yet. You're not taking care of the stuff that they're complaining about now, which is the current ownership of guns there. Can't do anything about that.
You know what, though? Like, watching these people, these liberals, try and ban guns, because I always say this, like, the leftists want guns. Karl Marx said to keep guns, and the leftists typically want them. The funny thing about it is that they're so ignorant of guns, gun policy, gun mechanics, that they're actually losing. Now, they win some things, like Maryland has banned the M1A, and it's like, for what reason? What does that accomplish? It's ridiculous. But 36 states have permitless open carry. 25 states have constitutional carry. Florida is soon to be the 26th state with constitutional carry. So while the liberals are screaming banning assault weapons, they can't define what assault weapon is, so nothing happens. And then on the right, they're enacting constitutional carry at the state level. And so now you have 36 states, permitless open carry. I mean, that's kind of crazy. We used to, if you look in the 80s, there was no concealed carry. Now almost every single state has to allow concealed carry, and 25 are constitutional, meaning you can just, if you live in the state, you don't need a permit at all. You can conceal if you want. So they're losing. And no matter how many times we scream that you're ignorant of the laws, they don't pay attention. So let them ban the ridiculous nonsense and lose.
So here's what's sick about it also, when you're talking about the Soros-funded prosecutors who are going and picking and choosing which laws they want to enforce. So, in Los Angeles or New York or St. Louis, you could theoretically have, one of their prosecutors choose to enforce these gun laws, but then let a rapist walk free because we need restorative justice, and that's disgusting. Throwing the book at things that whatever political Marxist agenda you have.
And then let's talk about what really happens behind the scenes, because I'm really big on the notion that I've had so many Democrats and Republicans confess that what they do on Capitol Hill they often agree on behind the scenes, but just not in front of everybody. And when I broke the Fast and Furious scandal about the government, in essence, running guns to Mexico illegally before they admitted they were doing that, initially at CBS, it was a Democrat leader of a committee on the Senate side that contacted me that wanted to follow up on that story, as sometimes they do when they sense there's a big story coming. And Republicans also called me, and I shared public information that I had on the story, happy to make the story get more information. They can issue subpoenas and interview people that I can't get on camera. But the Democrats quickly bowed out, and it was clear, it confused me at the time, but in retrospect, a decision had been made, and a staffer actually told me, a Democrat staffer in the Senate, that this was not a good issue for them because they couldn't figure out how it played with the gun control crowd and the gun control issue, and that they had a lot of constituents that support guns, and I said, aren't some issues just, this to me wasn't a gun control issue, this was the government corruption and all kinds of stuff. I said, aren't some issues bigger than that debate?
But it was also covering for Obama too. That was part of it too.
Well, but the staffer's answer was, you'd like to think so, when I said, aren't some issues bigger than that, than politics?
So break down the Fast and the Furious scandal for those that aren't familiar.
Well, this was the government got caught through a whistleblower with ATF. I think it was unprecedented that a sitting federal agent came forward and spoke to me on camera about it. They had been knowingly selling guns, putting them in the hands of the Mexican drug cartels. And it was misreported, and is still frequently misreported today, that there was sort of a sting operation, that they were trying to track the guns to the bad cartel guys and lost track of them. They didn't attempt to track most of the guns. That was the problem. And they were, in essence, arming the Sinaloa cartel down in Mexico, which isn't really a stretch to the imagination looking back, that we often take sides when there are warring factions in countries, and we were choosing the Sinaloa cartel apparently over the Zeta cartel, which were affiliated with terrorists and we perceived as worse. But regardless, the government was using this issue of guns showing up in Mexico, not telling anybody we were moving them there, and saying, look, we need gun control here in the United States because we're selling guns and they're ending up in Mexico, knowing all along that they were putting them there.
And this was Obama.
Yeah, under Obama. And, those guns killed a lot of people, including a Border Patrol agent. That's why an agent stepped forward, because he had said, and some of the gun shops that knew this was happening, that ATF was allowing it to happen, were saying, this is going to come back and shoot a federal agent. Someone's going to get killed with one of these guns, and quite a few people got killed with those guns.
So to recap, they would rather arm Mexican cartels who will kill U.S. ATF agents while take away the guns of law-abiding Americans.
They'd rather arm the Taliban.
Yeah.
They'd rather arm the Mujahideen, right? They'd rather arm
$8 billion
ISIS.
of equipment?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our government has this very interesting habit of funding and arming groups that end up killing Americans.
Sus.
How did you find out it was a whistleblower who came forward?
To this day, I don't know who tipped me off. I got a one-paragraph tip in the mail a letter that said, Senator Grassley is looking into this, and it briefly described something that sounded plausible, but so many of my stories start out that way. And I called Senator Grassley's office. I knew he had a whistleblower. And Grassley's office at the time would not cooperate with me for various reasons. And I identified the whistleblower. His girlfriend at the time called me because I did sort of a generic story with what I knew, because that will stir the pot and bring out other sources sometimes. She called me out of the blue, and I wrote down the number it came in on at CBS. And she said, my boyfriend is a source on this, and he may want to talk to you, but not today. And he never called back. She said he might call in the next day or two. And I'd written down the number, and I called back 2 days later when I really needed that next story and knew there was something serious going on. And I said, I think I know who he is. And I had done enough poking around of who the teams were that were working on these issues in Arizona and so on. And he got on the phone with me, and I said, I know you're probably John Dotson. And he said, whoa, and it was. And it took a lot of doing to convince him to go on camera as a sitting federal agent. He's been made to pay ever since. Now, they didn't fire him because members of Congress stepped in, primarily Grassley's office, every time he got threatened. But he's been held out as a dog when he should be the hero that everybody emulates to blow the whistle when bad stuff and murder, may be happening as a result of things the government has done, but instead he's been treated just horribly, and that's the lesson that was sent out to other federal agents that might blow the whistle.
A good journalist should be a conspiracy theorist to a certain degree.
You have to be, because you learn that, for me anyway, most of what I hear will not turn out to be true, and I try to disprove it on its face. So when I hear that the Fast and Furious tips, I start going about trying to disprove the story, and when I can't, then I start seeing if I can prove it. So but you do have to believe. My funny story is my husband's former law enforcement. He's a lawyer, and I would come home and tell him about a tip I got or a story I'm working on over the years, and he would always go, that's just crazy. That can't be true. And he said that about Fast and Furious, and I said, we always say that, and then sometimes they are,
Well, what I think is also very upsetting is the weapons flowing from the other direction. So a lot of the illegal firearms coming up from Mexico, but because the left doesn't want to shut down our border, those are coming and circulating in our inner cities, especially, for white liberals who say they care about our inner cities and, violence for Black Americans and predominantly minority neighborhoods. But it's like, but they will not close down the border, and to me, that's white supremacy, right? You don't care about Black lives. When Black lives are being killed by illegal firearms from Mexico, where are the protests? I never hear about this.
I don't think it should be shocking to anybody. The people who advocate for slowing population growth are in favor of things that inhibit population growth. They're in favor of children being sterilized, they're in favor of abortion, and they're in favor of destroying economies, which stagnate growth.
Well, again, as a journalist, you like to poo-poo stuff, and me in the early part of my career in particular, and then so many of the things turn out to be true, and I think of something somebody tweeted not long ago that became my favorite tweet, which said, I have to find some new conspiracy theories because all my old ones came true.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. No, it's repeatedly happened with respect to, many things surrounding COVID-19. The lab leak hypothesis is one I bring up pretty frequently, but it's also insane that it was so straightforward and clear as an explanation that it leaked from a laboratory because the disease was first discovered near that laboratory, near a virology institute. And they're like, no, it came from a bat. And you're actually
1,000 miles away.
1,000 miles away, and you're the crazy one if you don't believe that.
Gaslighting. Mm-hmm. Here's what Trudeau said. He said, other than using firearms for sport shooting and for hunting, there is no reason anyone in Canada should need guns in their everyday lives.
Well,
that's amazing.
What's the Canadian Constitution say about guns, if anything?
I don't think it does.
Not enough.
Yeah, probably nothing. But, Canada, man, oof. That's they vote for it. I think we're lucky in a lot of ways that Canada is doing what they're doing so that we can see. We get to watch all the stuff that's going on in that country.
Well, I'm just excited to see what the truckers are going to do next.
I don't know. We'll see if this even makes it through because it is just a bill. But
Well, I thought his country was just taken over by a bunch of like supposedly fascist truckers who were like honking their horns in the name of white supremacy or something. And he's like, there's no reason anyone would need to protect themselves in this country.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's a great
both
point.
of those things don't fit together.
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
Good
it's
point.
because he knows that the truckers were not actually dangerous with respect to like the physical health and safety of his citizens the way they wanted to make it sound. They were just dangerous to the social order he was seeking to establish.
I can
and
think
so is
of,
owning a firearm.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.